Hello everyone, I hope you are all doing well. Today we are going to see about glaciers. Skills focus is listening. The book that you're using is Live Bit 4 and I'm Rodina Gjuhë. The text that you're going to see is about frozen rivers. And now you're going to follow up with listening and you are going to be informed more about glaciers, how they are formed, how they are found, and if anything lives on a glacier, and also what is the connection between glaciers and global warming.
5. Recording 9. Lesson 5D. Exercise 1.
Frozen rivers. Glacier fact file. A glacier is a big river of ice, water and rocks. There are thousands of glaciers in Alaska. Their number is increasing because of global warming. As they melt, they break up and create smaller ones. Glaciers still cover almost 10% of land, about 15 million square kilometers, and hold about 75% of the Earth's fresh water. Glaciers move very slowly, on average about 50 meters per year. How is a glacier formed? On the tops of mountains, it can snow at any time of the year. As more snow falls, the snow on the ground begins to get deeper and more compact until it forms a glacier. Glaciers move very slowly downhill. If they reach the ocean, huge chunks will occasionally break off. These pieces then become icebergs, which float in the sea and can be dangerous to ships. The ocean liner Titanic sank because it hit an iceberg. Where are glaciers found? Glaciers are found in regions with continuous snowfall and constant freezing temperatures. Most glaciers are in high mountain regions, such as the Himalayas or the Alps. Glaciers are even found in California and Tanzania in Central Africa. Does anything live on a glacier? The top of a glacier is only rocks, ice, soil and snow. So do any animals live there? Surprisingly, they do. Seals and polar bears live on glaciers near the sea. Insects and ice worms, 2 centimeters long, also live there. What is the connection between glaciers and global warming? As temperatures continue to rise worldwide, glaciers melt, releasing some or all of the huge amounts of water inside. As a result, sea levels will begin to rise. If sea levels rise more than 1 meter, major cities such as London, New York, and Tokyo might flood.
So, we can see that in this text there were presented many interesting facts. Now let's see and find the meaning of the words below, found on the text. For example, frozen, glacier, global warming, cover as a verb, then we've got form as a verb, compact as an adjective, downhill, chunk, float, region, continuous, snowfall, constant, soil, seal, polar bear, warm, rise, worldwide, melt, release, sea level, and major. You can check your dictionaries and then contact or talk with your peers about their meaning. Now let's see about comprehension. Read the fact file again. Write the questions to the answers. For example, first we've got thousands, and the question would be, how many glaciers are there in Alaska? Then see what 10%, 75%, and 50 meters mean in the article. Read the article again and answer the questions. How does snow eventually become a glacier? What can happen when a glacier meets the sea? And follow up with the 6th. Reading tip, dictionary skills. When you look up a word in a dictionary, look at the example sentences to see the different meanings of the word in context. So we had meanings of verbs and nouns or adjectives, and it depends on the meaning according to the context. Read the dictionary entry and answer the questions. For example, here we've got float, And we've got different meanings here: to stay or move on the surface of a liquid without sinking. The boat floated slowly along the river. And we've got the second meaning, which is to move slowly in the air. I looked at the clouds floating in the sky. And third, smells or sounds from another place that you can smell or hear. For example, the sound of her singing floated down from her bedroom window. Here we can see that we've got two questions. Which of the three definitions of float is the correct one for the word in the first paragraph in the article? And also look at the example sentences. Which other things can float? Next, let's move on to listening. Before you listen, check the meaning of these words below: steel, hole, and radio operator. Then listen to a lecture about the sinking of Titanic and answer the questions. As we've got the first example here: when did the disaster happen? 1912.
Lesson 5D. Exercise 5.
Hello, welcome to the second lecture in our series, Stories of the Sea. The story of the sinking of the Titanic is probably one of the most famous stories of the 20th century. I'm sure that many of you have seen the film starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. The Titanic was a large ocean liner. It was travelling from Britain to the USA when, on April the 14th, 1912, it hit an iceberg in the Atlantic Ocean and sank in just 2.5 hours. The iceberg probably came from Greenland. Warm weather had caused a huge chunk of ice to break off a glacier. The iceberg floated a long way south, where it met the Titanic. Everyone was shocked because they thought the Titanic couldn't sink. That night, the ocean was calm and the weather was freezing but clear. So what caused the disaster? Actually, many things caused the sinking of the Titanic. I'm going to tell you about some of them. At first, investigators decided it was the iceberg that caused the ship to sink. An iceberg might look quite small, but 85% of it is underwater. The underwater part of this iceberg made a large hole in the side of the Titanic, and it then sank in one piece. But later, in 1985, a diving expedition found that the Titanic had broken into 2 or 3 pieces before it sank. Experts looked at the pieces of metal from the ship, and they found that the shipbuilders had used poor quality steel. This metal broke very easily in extremely cold temperatures. When the Titanic hit the iceberg in the freezing weather, the end came quickly. Many other ships, made of stronger steel, had hit icebergs before the Titanic and survived. Another problem was the failure of the radio operators on the ship. They received messages that there were large icebergs in the area. Unfortunately, they didn't give these messages to the captain because they were too busy sending messages from the passengers to their friends and families. When the ship's sailors finally saw the huge iceberg, it was only a short distance from the ship. The captain tried to stop the ship, but it was too late. The ship was too big to stop or turn in time.
Okay, so that here we can see the answers. Where was the iceberg probably from? We can see that maybe it was from Greenland. Then we've got the third question, which is what was the weather like on that night? It was, of course, freezing, but clear. What was the first explanation for the sinking? We know that is the iceberg. Then we've got another explanation in the fifth question. What was the later explanation? Maybe it was the failure of the radio operator that they weren't informed in time. Then we've got why didn't the radio operators give the messages to the captain? It's because they were busy sending messages to the relatives and to other people. And why couldn't the ship stop in time? It was because of the short distance when they were actually informed. Now let's move on to writing. Next, you are going to write a paragraph about icebergs using the information below. You've got the definition, the weight, speed, and size. For example, you can start as an iceberg is a large piece of ice that has broken off from a glacier and floats in the sea. Then you are going to use the details given to complete the paragraph. Thank you all for your attention. It's my pleasure to be with you. Have a great day.